It is episode number 18, the Sebastian Aho show. What do you think of that Elan intro?
That was something. That was kind of like a pirate. I liked
It was
it.
kind of
But
like
now
a
I get
pirate.
it. It was like it was a play on Aho. At first I thought this is just like your new intro to the show that you're gonna start every episode with like some sort of ahoy there. But okay, I get it now. Now it makes more sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to make some fun play on words. Last year was the What's Up for Foi or Future Watch Auto.
That's a really deep dive. Like you'd have to really be into the hobby to know about that one. I think people could probably get behind the aho there a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people picked up on that one, but I'm glad you did. And welcome back to the show.
Yeah, happy to be here. Yeah, I've had a bit of a sabbatical, but I have actually like sort of stopped paying attention to cards for like a month. Like the hockey season started, and all of a sudden it was like fantasy. And now I've been like heads down. Like I've got 4 fantasy leagues. I've been going crazy, but like I did buy all these cards over the summer. And also like our PSA order is going to be coming back soon. You've been giving me updates that's in the mail. So all of a sudden it's like, oh damn, I'm
Yeah.
ready. Like now, and also it's like I bought all these cards. The whole idea was that to sell them, right? Like, it's an investment to hopefully, like, I think these players are going to go up. So now it's fun to like see that apparently all cards are going up in value for the most part, or a big chunk of them. Like, this has been wild.
Yeah, and the plan for today's show is to talk about kind of the ups and bigger ups of cards because, like, I haven't really seen anyone that's down. So we're gonna go through some players, some of the guys we bought. But before we get into that, do you want to talk a little bit about what you've got coming back from PSA?
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty stoked. Like, I was very excited over the summer when we first got into this hobby, and I got myself a McDavid KSA 8.5 Young Guns that I had like bought from someone. I think it was Hamilton. Like, I drove there. It was like I went on a whole journey to get this like cheaper McDavid, like off of Kijiji, and so then we shipped that over to PSA. So hopefully they're gonna just take that out of the slab and put it in a nine out of 10 slab. I wouldn't mind that. I also bought an OV Young Guns off of Facebook Marketplace, which was probably like was very scary. And it was like at some point I had to like trust it. Like the guy was giving me all the reasons why I should trust him. And so I was like, all right, sent him that money transfer and then just like waited impatiently for it to arrive. And it came. I think it looked really good. We shipped it off like the next day. I've literally only looked at my OV, and OV is like one of my favorite players, I should mention, him and Eric Carlson. And it's like I looked at this card, I was like, sweet. Then right away, just like walk over to Ryan's house, put it in the mail. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like when it comes back. Hopefully, also in a 9. I mean, I'll take a 10, but
Yeah, so this as the story goes, we sent it must have been 80 cards to PSA, but there was only a handful that were in kind of that upper echelon where you have to pay extra because they're worth more. So we've got your Gretzky crossover coming back, and then 7 other cards. I've got a Brock Besser Future Watch Auto Inscribed coming back. I've got the McDavid that I pulled that I kind of
oh,
just
that was
want. I
amazing.
just kind of want it encased. I don't even know what it's gonna get. Like I think like the very, very, very max would be 9, but I'm kind of expecting 8. I just kind of want it. Wait,
Which, by the way, is very rude, I think, of Upper Deck. It's like I think the whole point of buying a pack is you're getting your fresh, clean cards. Like you pull a card and it's only a 9. That's not on you. That's on Upper Deck. It's
yeah,
like they
yeah,
screwed
and
you.
they do fix issues if it's like egregious. Like if your card is like brutal, they'll do something for you. But I get it with just like a little corner ding, like that could be
Mhm.
on you know Walmart or whoever
Yeah, of course.
dinged
Yeah.
up their packs, right? So it's hard to, I don't know, it's hard to assign blame for stuff like that. Um, there's like a ton of NHL news to cover, but I think let's start with the big news of the Laine for Dubois trade. I guess Roslovic was in there as well, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about the main two.
You're not loading up on Roslovic Young Guns? What's that going for right now? I don't think I've seen it.
I can't imagine it's more than a buck or two, and no, I don't expect anything from him except maybe he has like a little bit more of an impact there on like a team where they run 4 lines, but I'm not
Well,
really watching him.
I can tell you, like, I don't know if this is like kind of for my other podcast, but like, I've been watching the Columbus practice lines, and today Roslovic was centering a line with Boone Jenner and Cam Atkinson.
Yep.
And then first line center, as I'm calling him now, Alexandre Texier is centering Foligno and Bjorkstrand, and then Max Domi's with Grigorenko and Foudy. So I think a lot of people are expecting that Patrick Laine is going to line up with Domi,
Hmm.
which is like maybe good. I don't know. I don't even know if I'm expecting that. I honestly, I just expect Tortorella to shift around the lines around like every day, so it doesn't even matter like what will happen. I think
Yeah.
the main impact on the team and subsequently on like Laine's potential hockey card value is going to be on the power play, right? Like Columbus is
Yeah.
one of the worst power plays in the league, and now like hopefully bringing Laine in is going to jumpstart that and get them into like the top 10. Because if not, I'll tell you right now, Ryan, I'm like very nervous about Patrick Laine's card value. Like I wanted to buy a Laine Young Guns and I didn't, and now I'm kind of happy because maybe it's gonna. You tell me, like maybe it's spiked now because he's in the news, but Columbus players aren't generally known for having high valued Young Guns cards.
No, so I actually did end up with I think I only have one. I got a BGS 9.5. But the interesting thing with this trade is like purely from a hockey card world perspective, like the Dubois side is winning big time.
Oh, of
If you're
course.
looking at buying cards back in the off season, like November territory, Dubois was like $15, Laine was 60. Dubois is at 50ish now. Laine has gone up a bit too, but it's more like 75 to 90. So Dubois is over 3 times what he was, and Laine is maybe 1.5 times. So definitely the people in Winnipeg are very excited to have Dubois come, and I think they should be. And yeah, I'm flip flopping on whether I should sell that Laine, a few games into him being there, or see if he turns out to be that like prolific goal scorer that he was always supposed to be.
I just think that he was in a really good spot on the Jets. Like I know he really wanted to be in a better spot. Like he wanted to be playing with Scheifele, but he was still playing with Ehlers, who we've seen all of a sudden now. Paul Stastny and Andrew Kopp are
Mm-hmm.
like having amazing weeks because of how good Ehlers is. Like I guess he can really turn it on, and Ehlers just hasn't like exploded as a superstar because he doesn't get on the top power play. But like now, Line is going to switch to what to play with Max Domi. Like what's the best case? Like Domi and Bjorkstrand, which I don't even think that might not happen. So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. I just feel like Laine, I think it will be great for Columbus as long as Tortorella doesn't hate him, and specifically, like I said, for the power play. But I just can't see him reaching the upside that he would have reached in Winnipeg.
I definitely agree with you there. And his cards won't either because, as you said, Columbus market. Now, the one thing for his hockey card is I might hang on to it until his next contract because maybe he doesn't like it in Columbus and he goes
True.
somewhere else.
Smart. If
So,
anything, maybe the play here, tell me if this is dumb, but what if you buy Laine's, like wait until he's in Columbus for a couple months. Hopefully it's even not going that well and you get him for like kind of cheap. Then you hope that as an unrestricted or he's a restricted free agent, but let's say he holds out and then he gets traded to like the Rangers or some like awesome situation and or the Leafs, I don't know. And then all of a oh, the Habs, I guess would be the ultimate, but the Habs already are stacked. But
yeah.
that could work out. Okay, here, this is what I've been looking for while I've been recording. I've been multitasking. Here's my Alexandre Texier Young
Ooh.
Guns that I bought over the summer, probably for like $1 as like a throw-in. So imagine if he's lining up with Laine and Bjorkstrand. He's having a really good start to the year. How's that?
Yeah.
That's probably already gone up a little bit, probably not that much just because it's Columbus, but that's a card I'm keeping in mind. I also have this one here, Oliver Bjorkstrand. It's really fun for the people listening to the audio, but this is the future, right? Like people care more about the video.
It's
So
the
show off
future.
our cool Columbus cards.
Yeah, I mean Texier definitely is a good one to watch. He's been doing pretty well, being put in a good spot. But again, like Tortorella runs his lines fairly evenly. He doesn't really, unless you're Panarin level, he doesn't really get you a lot of points. And so I don't
And
know
even
about anyone.
Panarin, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, like Panarin like got a lot of points, but then he went to the Rangers and got like even more points. So like
right.
it's kind of like maybe he was held back.
Yeah.
Here's by the way my Nikolai Ehlers, which I also have a PSA 10 of. That so far it's looking pretty good. I would love if with Line gone, right now it hasn't happened, but maybe he could get on the top power play. Now it's Paul Stastny, but
Well,
like that's not fair.
so Winnipeg's actually really interesting. I was looking right at this today. Ehlers has 11 points in 7 games. Kyle
That's
Connor
not
has 9 in 7 games. So I mean, he's having a great start to the season. His cards have started to go up in value, like 1.5 times what they were kind of in the offseason kind of thing. Whereas Kyle Connor is really, really like 2 to 3 times as much. Um, but yeah, I mean, I bought a BGS 9.5 Ehlers in the summer. It was $50, and now it's like 80ish. And I don't really see why that would go down, given he's gonna have all that opportunity now.
yeah. So yeah, I think the big impact here is definitely like Dubois could be good. Though Winnipeg's always been weird, right? Because it's like the only Canadian team where their cards aren't worth that much for some reason, as much as you'd expect, anyways.
Yeah.
But you'd think of like Dubois is like I think a cool player. Like he's such a good like offensive player, and he's also like I don't know, he has a reputation of being responsible defensively. I've been seeing some like advanced stats people saying maybe he's not as great defensively as his reputation says, but it could be a really nice fit. Like Winnipeg's been looking for a second line center forever. They have Paul Stastny now, who's doing well, but he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. So Dubois is the future. If this team can kind of like figure their stuff out, it's like so far it's been a pretty decent start. Like they have obviously one of the best goalies in the league. Their defense leaves a bit to be desired, but yeah, if they could get back in the playoffs and go on a run, I could imagine Dubois being one of the leaders of the team, especially if we're talking like in like a year or two from now when Blake Wheeler is starting to, decline. All of a sudden, like maybe they're leading on like Dubois and Shifley and Connor as like and Ehlers. It's like a really fun
Yeah.
core of young players actually.
It's an exciting group to watch. I will say that if you're interested in Dubois, like today or the next little bit is probably not a good time to buy him because he's skyrocketed to about $50. And I mean, you can get some pretty good players at $50. I expect that to come down once the hoopla is over. But then again, who knows? Maybe he shows up and he just destroys because he's never been like let go. Like in Columbus, he's never been like given the ropes to just go get as many points as he wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Yeah, for sure. So I guess this will be two players to watch as the time goes on, and the supporting cast around like a Texier. I think Texier is like the kind of guy you could buy right now, probably still for pretty cheap.
Yeah.
I should probably just look him up. But okay, I'm gonna look up Texier right now. A sold Texier, 141 for a PSA 10 on auction. What has happened since I've been away from hockey cards? I assumed it was gonna be like $50 for a PSA 10. What's the raw going for? Jeez, man.
I think I
Okay,
saw
well,
it
I'm
like
glad I have this Texier.
under
Jeez, Louise.
$10, but maybe that's a crazy multiplier. Maybe there just aren't a lot of PSA 10s. So like if you wanted one, like you got to be the guy that pays the money. Um, I will say before we like get into like, oh, this player's up by a lot, like the entire market has kind of been going crazy since the season started. So everyone's sort of up, and especially those that like you can't get a lot of for whatever reason if they're an older player or Texier PSA 10s, nobody's graded them yet. Um, and the other thing we're seeing is like players' points over even the 7 or 8 games they've played now or over the season kind of doesn't matter. What really matters is like hype. So it's better for a player to have like one big game than to have like 7 1-point games. As
That
far as
makes
as
sense.
far as like selling a card, if you want to sell a card, obviously you want a player that's going to be good long term. But like we saw Oscar Lindblom destroy in one game, and his cards went from like $1 to $2 to like $10 overnight. Same thing happened with Brock Besser when he had a couple snipes. Um, you know, it's just like as soon as a player does something huge, like cards just sell. Um,
Did Brandon Sutter's card? I can't imagine that applies even to Brandon Sutter or Andrew Kopp. That would be
um,
wild.
I don't, I wouldn't have even looked those guys up, but maybe they did see a little uptake. I don't know.
Do you even know what team? I brought it up now on eBay. Try to guess what team Brandon Sutter's on in his Young Guns card.
Pittsburgh.
No, it's Carolina. I
Oh
didn't know
wow!
this. If but I'm
Today I
seeing one
learned.
sold. Actually, the last sale of a Brandon Sutter Young Gun that I'm seeing on eBay is 99 cents. So,
Yeah.
but that's on January 12th. So that's before the hat trick. But come on, that'll never happen again.
So nobody was really interested. So yeah, I mean, it does matter who the player is, but certainly those like highlights that make the NHL sports. I don't know if people watch Sports Center still, but wherever you watch your highlights, Instagram these days probably. Um, that's going to matter a lot for you know card value. And
Yeah.
the other thing is like if you look at a guy like Elias Pettersson who has done next to nothing, you'd expect, if we're going just on points, that his card value has at the very least plateaued or like even dipped. But nope, it's like twice as much as it was before the season started.
Wow. I wonder if that will dip though soon if he keeps on struggling. I know in fantasy I'm starting to see people like wanting to trade him in their leagues like
Right.
for really shabby returns, but I guess for cards. I'm seeing a January 27th Pedersen 170 ungraded. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a lot higher than it was last time I had checked that.
Yeah, yeah, no, like they're literally twice as much at best. And he hasn't done anything yet. Now, I think like with a guy like that, everyone expects him to turn it around. If he goes,
Mhm.
3 months, maybe you'll start seeing a dip. But he's just a very likable guy, and I guess that's my point. Is like it doesn't matter necessarily that you scored 10 points in 5 games.
The thing with Pedersen, yeah, it's just like he like it's just this amazing prospect, and he's had like a good career so far, but he hasn't like done anything like that exciting yet. Like he hasn't even had like he hasn't had 100-point season, So to like make him like a super like he's a superstar in all of our minds because of the potential.
Yeah,
So eventually, this card value will go down if he doesn't turn it around. We're just all assuming he will turn it around because he's Elias Pettersson,
yeah.
but definitely a weird start to the year. That's for sure. Bo Horvat is the guy like in fantasy, it would be really hard to turn down like a if you have Pedersen and someone's offering you Horvat for him, you might maybe consider it. But I guess for hockey cards, you're holding on to Pedersen for sure.
Oh yeah, I actually looked up Horvat today just because I was curious, and his were going for about $100 in the off season. Now they're at 180, so he's going up too. That's
Should
one that
be,
I'd
yeah.
probably sell sooner than later. But he's actually younger than I thought he was. He's still like 25 or 26, right?
One guy who's gone up a lot, and you convinced me. I mean, it didn't take much convincing to sell. Is I actually bought a Tyler Toffoli PSA 10 right when, like, the day I saw that he signed with Montreal. I like went on ComC and just clicked the button. It was like I think $50, like maybe 60 after shipping, and I got it like 3 months. Like, I got it like a lot later, but it
Yeah.
came like around end of November, start of December. And after the hat trick, I wasn't even thinking about it. And then like we were talking about doing the show this week, and then you were like, "Do you have any Toffoli's?" Like, "Yeah, I have a PSA 10." And like, it turned out that we were able to sell for $200. So I flipped it, and I like Toffoli. I think he's going to continue to have a good year. So we'll see if I regret that, but probably that's a pretty good. Like, I'm not going to turn away like a return of like over $100 profit.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So you sold yours for 220 and it was 68 the day you bought it. I also bought 3 raw ones at like $11 each, and I sold one of them for 45. So it's basically found money
yeah.
now.
I guess, yeah. The thing with Toffoli and like any of these Habs is that the Habs look so good this year that I feel like this team might be the best in the North Division. And they could, I think, they're a reasonable bet to go on a playoff run this year. Like they're just so deep, both like on forwards. They have like an amazing top nine. Like Toffoli's on the third line and he's getting hat tricks. And then you have like with Kotkaniemi as his center, and it was Armia who was doing really well in at least one game. Then he got injured, and now they have Corey Perry, which isn't the worst consolation
no.
prize for a right winger on the third line. Then like on defense, they've always been like like they had like Weber and Petrie, who are their two main guys. Now all of a sudden they have Romanov coming in and having a big impact, and then then they have their kind of like lunch paler guys that just like could play big minutes. So I don't know. It's just like they seem like, and then of course Carey Price and net,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, I probably don't even need to convince you, but like this, like their record stands for itself. But it's just like I think if the Habs go on a run, all these players, their cards are going to go nuts because people are going to lose their minds. Like it's been forever since the Habs went on a long playoff run. So
Yeah,
that would be a reason to hold your Habs. But we still sold Toffoli just because it was such a huge uptick, and he doesn't get hat tricks all the time.
he does not. And I think if you're going to go Habs, like whether you're holding them or buying them today at like a higher price, I'd be leaning towards like Nick Suzuki or going for the big boy and Carey Price versus the Tyler Toffoli that, as you say, might get a hat trick here and there, but also is a very streaky player. So he could be in a playoff series or a playoff run where nothing happens for him, and then it doesn't even matter that he's on the team.
Yeah, I remember watching some Price PSA 10s in the off season, and I saw like one go for 1,000, and I was like, "Wow, that's expensive." And now I'm seeing one just sold recently for or 1,100. So it's creeping up there. I guess that one's not going to go up as much just because it was already so high to begin with.
It was, yeah, but if, as you say, if he does something big, it'll be crazy.
Yeah.
Another guy that I wanted to chat about, who in the off season we're talking about, like, oh my god, that's expensive, is Jack Hughes. So it was $60 in the off season. We were looking at it going, I don't know, that could be pretty tough investment. But he's had a great start to the season. He's looking like a totally different guy, and his cards are going from like 120 to 170 now. It's like a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I guess that's all it takes is he just needed to like actually be the player that people thought he was going to be last year. Like it was kind of crazy that he came into the NHL right out of college. It's super rare. Most players don't do that. And also he was coming into a team like didn't have a lot of depth, like not a lot of people to help him. So yeah, he struggled. But yeah, 7 points in 6 games so far. Like I think it's helping him also that Nico Heishier's injured. Like I don't think that'll help him like long term, but it's like
Right.
nice because he starts the year with all the spotlight. So he's the guy getting this team their wins for the most part. So yeah, it's like he probably won't keep up this pace, but the card value, but like this season, but in the future, he could be great. And I like this Devils team also. I think they're like a sneaky bet to like rank higher in their division than people expected and maybe get like maybe the fourth spot or at least challenge, for the playoffs. So I don't know if that also helps Jack Hughes. So at the same time, I wonder with such a big spike right now, that's my question to you is like with all these cards going up, do you hold or is it time to like flip? Like anyone who like got into this in the summer could just like flip everything right now, have made a nice tidy profit, walk away, wait till next
Yeah.
summer maybe and start over.
Yeah,
Like maybe,
I
yeah,
think
what
you
do
have
you
to be
do?
really strategic about it. It really does come down to your hockey knowledge. Like if I had Jack Hughes, I'd probably be selling him today if I bought him at $60 or less. Because there's guys out there that haven't moved so much that you could invest in today, and I think you could kind of reallocate your money. But also, it's a very tough time to be buying cards. You aren't finding a lot of deals. You're buying them at like quote unquote new prices because most things have gone up. Um, but that's just the reality of it now. Everything's kind of going up as more people are joining the hockey hobby, more people are watching hockey. Um, the one thing that's really funny to me is people lost their minds on Lafreniere, and it's kind of related to Hughes because Hughes had a bad year his first year. So if you were one of the people that has a Lafreniere, like hang on to it. But I mean, as you know, 6 games and he's done nothing, and people were buying his card for 300 or 400 bucks when it came out.
Yeah, I'm still seeing one sold today on auction for 242 on eBay, so it's not like it's tanked completely, but obviously anyone who bought it for 400, I guess they just really wanted it to display it. But yeah, it's definitely hopefully they flipped it quickly. But there's some sucker at the end of the line who overspent by $150 on that card, but maybe in the future it won't matter because it'll be worth thousands. But yeah,
Yeah.
like it's tricky with a guy like Lafreniere, and it's also tricky. Like I still have one unopened box
Ooh.
of that 2020-21 Upper Deck. Like I was waiting just because I thought it would be, I don't know, I thought it would be interesting to just hold it and maybe like sell the box one day or like open it sometime for fun. Now I'm kind of feeling like, the Lafreniere has gone down. Like maybe I blew it. Like maybe it wasn't worth it to hold it because there's not really any great. There's what's his name,
Bowen
Byram.
Byram. Yeah.
Like I think those are like kind of the only two exciting young guns in this set, at least right now. Like everyone else is just kind of a bland, boring player, unless I'm
Yeah.
missing someone.
Well, there
Yeah.
might be some guys that change your mind, but you know, there's no one that's like blowing our socks off yet. So I don't think you blew it. Like worst case with a box that you keep is you sell it for the same price you bought it for. Um,
Unless Lafreniere is a bust, but which I don't think is going to happen. And then
no,
there's like no one that anyone wants in that box.
right?
But oh yeah, Josh Norris was in that set, as Aaron is saying, and he I believe has scored a goal today.
Nice.
So
Yeah, that's one. Maybe he's like a much better player than people anticipated.
he's been centering the first line on Ottawa, playing with Brady Kachuk, so it's a good spot to be in. I actually had him in my fantasy league, and I just traded him yesterday
Hmm.
for Ricard Raquel. So I get this goal, and then tomorrow morning the trade's gonna process. So hopefully it's just a nice goodbye present and not like Elan, you really blew it kind of thing.
True, true, true.
But okay, no one cares about that. Let's talk about some more cards. Like what did you want to get to next year? I thought like one fun thing to talk about would be to talk about some players who have looked good this year that don't have a card yet and that I'm excited about their card to be released.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I pre-ordered Series 2. It comes out March 10th, so that's another month and a bit for these guys to be
Oh
even
man.
more exciting.
Wait, how much
Um,
did it cost for you to pre-order it?
I don't know. The boxes are like 125, 130 bucks.
Can you still get them?
I don't think so.
Ah, Wish you called. Did you order like the max you could have, or could you have ordered more?
I could sell you a box or two.
I'll take a couple boxes. Can we lock it in right now?
Sure.
Boom! I'm in on series two. That's exciting. I'm more excited about series two than series one. Like, I don't know if this is a hot take, but Kirill Kaprizov is already looking like the guy we hope Lafreniere will be one day. Like, how much better? Like, maybe Lafreniere has a bit of a higher ceiling, but Kirill Kaprizov is so good. He's like taking this like team of nobodies aside from like Fiala and Parisi, I guess. And it's like Minnesota's winning some games. He's like clearly like I watched a Wild game. He's like all over the place, like doing beautiful moves. He didn't score, but I don't know if you saw this like breakaway
Yeah.
where then the guy was right on him, and so he put it through his legs and tried to shoot it that. Oh, amazing!
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I would.
he's a flashy player, so I like that from a hockey card perspective. He's a bit older, so like I'd kind of be a little worried from that perspective in the hockey card world. Like, it's a player, he's incredible. I'd
I
probably
mean, Panarin. Yeah, Panarin's doing well. He
true, but
came
his
late.
cards never reach the same heights as some of those guys that were like CHL stars, right?
Fair.
It's like starting to really take off, but it never really gets to the same level. For that reason, I'm like a lot more excited about Niels Hoglander in Vancouver, who
Mm-hmm.
again, like flashy player, and that's why I'm excited. I'm not thinking he's gonna be like a 100-point guy, but people are gonna pay attention.
Yeah, like he's had a decent start. He's on a 3 game point streak going into today's game against Ottawa. So yeah, I think he's good. Like I don't know. It's like to me, like I'm not gonna talk about Hoglander and Kaprizov in the same like segment, just like to me it's like
Well,
but I guess you're saying just because of the market in Vancouver is
yeah,
bigger.
yeah.
So
So my point is not in any way that Hoglander is a better player, but it doesn't matter.
sure. I don't
Like,
know. I think Kaprizov is gonna win the Calder. I guess we'll see like what that does for him.
yeah.
But anyway, series two. But so those are two fun players, and there's like some more fun players that are going to come out in this box, right? Like, I guess we're not going to be getting Bowen by or not. No, we did. Oh man, Byfield. Sorry,
Byfield.
lots of B's that were
I get
that are
those two
starting.
mixed up too. Yeah.
But so Byfield hasn't played yet. So hopefully he plays just a game at some point, just so that we can see his card. Like same with Marco Rossi. I think he was gonna play, but then he got injured, so he wasn't able to. So there's some like fun players from this past draft that might come in soon. And then we've got like some guys coming out of nowhere, right? Pew Suter over on
Yeah.
Chicago had that hat trick, and he's been centering Patrick Kane. I think he's going to be a player. I'd love to see him even. I think he's going to be a UFA or like he's not signed right now long term. Like I'd even love to see him go somewhere else because I think he's a talented player and it's like kind
You
of
don't want to see him
wasted.
there?
I mean, if I buy his hockey card and then if he could go to like the Leafs or like a bigger market, the Oilers or something, like
Right.
it could be big. Like he could play wing for the Oilers and he'd probably be a better option than most of the people they have. Though actually, though, they're top six finally. People are very excited about Puljujärvi right now getting on the McDavid line. The way in my main fantasy league, which is the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League, which you're in as well, and so I'm in the top tier, so it's like really competitive. And Puljujärvi got to line one, and the next day we use this a free agent bidding. This is like way too much information for people who don't play fantasy, but it's like you basically have $100 at the start of the year of fake money, and then you like bid on free agents, and so you kind of want to use it wisely, right? But someone bid 33 of their $100 to get Puljujärvi just because he was on the top line. That's how excited they were. And then the next game, which was the most recent game, he didn't really do anything there. That's the thing with Edmonton, right? It's like I don't know, like the lines might change, but imagine if Puljujärvi sticks on the top line and with McDavid and Nugent Hopkins and like has himself a season. I got to imagine his card's probably already spiking, right? Just
Yeah,
because he's
yeah.
had a decent start.
I wanted to talk about my boys actually, Puljujärvi and Yamamoto, who I bought a few of at the beginning of my interest
Nice.
in this whole endeavor. Which Puljujärvi, I got cards at around $10 or $12, and like it's an easy 30 now, like no
Sweet.
problem.
And what about
Um,
Yamamoto?
and Yamamoto, I got for about 20 in the off season. Now at like 40, which isn't as big an increase, but like people didn't know what Puljujärvi was gonna do. Everyone knew Yamamoto was good already. But both those guys are looking incredible. Like, they're not our best two players because it's pretty obvious who those guys are, but uh, definitely looking very, very, very good. Puljujärvi is looking amazing on the puck and just doing like little things that, he doesn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet every night, but he's noticeable.
Yeah, so definitely those Oilers, and just like there's people like you that love the
Yeah.
Oilers, so
Oh,
obviously those
tons of
cards.
them.
Oh, another, by the way, but speaking of people who are gonna have a lot of people wanting to buy their card, wait for Romanov's card to come out in series
Ooh.
2. That's gonna shoot up. He's doing amazing. And the Habs have needed like another good defenseman for so long. Like they just somehow in free agency it was like like ever since Andrei Markov left the team, I was like, the Habs could really use defense. And then every free agency, there's all these good defensemen. Somehow they don't get any of them. Then they sign someone really terrible, like who was that guy for like Alsner or
Right.
whatever out of Washington, right? So it's like now they've got their guy. I think that people are gonna be really excited about Romanov. And I know normally you were always advising that like for hockey cards, you don't want necessarily the player who's like really valuable to their team. You want like the flashy guy putting up points, but just I feel like in Montreal it's like all different, right? It's just Habs fans are
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
love who they love and want their cards. And Romanov, I think they just love him because he's fine, like a big minute eating, not terrible defenseman. That's
Yeah.
not Petrie or Weber.
Yeah. I mean, everything goes out the window when you start talking about Habs players because they just get like, I don't know, it must be like a 3 to 4 times multiplier just by being in that jersey. And he's having a good rookie season. His card's going to come out in series 2. Like, that might be one of the most, if not the most expensive card in that box.
Yeah. Still, if it's not Kaprizov, that's a travesty. But I guess you're probably right that it might not be. Okay, I'm gonna throw 3 or 4 more players. I don't even know. I guess you're gonna do a whole other episode about it, or many when Series 2 comes out. But like, just it's exciting seeing these rookies, and then it's like, too bad there's no cards to buy with them. Like Lankinen over in
Yeah.
Chicago. Like they came into the season, it was like they had 3 goalies. Who knew who was gonna be the starter? Lankinen's got already, I think it's 3 wins in a row now. A couple of them, or no, 3 games in a row now, 2 wins in a row, both against Detroit. But he's playing today against Nashville. It's 0-0 in the second period. So it's looking like
Hmm.
Lankinen's having another nice start so far. 13 saves on 13 shots. It's like, obviously, this is like out of date by the time anyone listens to this. But we've got people in the chat here. Matthew,
Yeah.
hello. He just wrote that he was just in the most heartbreaking box break. So definitely tell us the story in the chat, and then we'll let people know what happened. But okay, so Lankinen's exciting, I think. I mean, exciting in quotes. I guess
Sure.
Sorokin hasn't been that good, but he's like, people are excited about him. He's probably gonna have a great career. So his card's gonna come out. There's also that goalie on Washington, right? Vanacek,
Yep.
who's been playing since Samsonov's been injured. So he's like looking pretty good. Keandre Miller, defenseman on the Rangers, just got himself his first goal. It's like Ty Smith,
Ty
who
Smith.
had
That's
a
a big one.
hot streak to start the season. Like
Yeah.
this is going to be a hot set of cards. So yeah, you can't change your mind now after we've talked about this. You already told me you're giving me 2 boxes. So
Well, maybe we'll have to
lock
break a
that in.
couple open on the show or something.
Hey, whatever it takes, man. I hope it won't be like that last one we opened of Series 1 where my best player was like that goalie on Toronto that I forget his name already.
Kind of a useless one. Yeah.
It was all terrible. The best card I got was like McDavid wearing a suit, and you were like, "That's a hit, right?" Did you ever sell that for me?
I did. Yeah. I think it sold for maybe $45.
Hey,
So,
if someone wants it,
yeah.
enjoy. All right, so what do you think? Let's talk about some of these other cards we invested in over the summer.
Yeah. So, why don't you tell me maybe your favorite investment, which I hope is not Tyler Toffoli?
Yeah, so that obviously is turning into my
Oh, it's a
favorite.
good
I
one.
already sold it. Like it's over now. Okay, can we talk about maybe Thomas Chabot, who I bought both PSA 10 and I have a raw
Yep.
that I bought here that I wanted to send, and then you told me that the grade won't be so high. So I guess I decided not to send it. So I hope you're just wrong or whatever. I'll sell it raw sometime. But because it doesn't look bad like to the naked eye. I don't know if anyone you can't see it through here anyways. But yeah, how's Chabot doing? Because the Sens haven't been great,
Yeah,
but
so I mean, I got a bunch of Shabbat as well, and I'm still excited about him. But he's one of the surprising ones for me. Like, his raw was going for 20-25 bucks. Maybe you could find a deal, but like, it's not really much better. Like, I'm still seeing sales in that neighborhood. Like, maybe get 30, but like, it's not in the range where like you're making any money yet.
all right. So I guess the Sens actually do need to become a good team one day before people are going to really care about their cards. How about this guy? Okay, this guy's got to be doing hot right now. Josh Anderson
Hmm.
over on the Habs. These Habs guys. I actually have this Anderson, and then I also have a lot of 4 that I bought, but I was feeling cheap. It was like in the States, and so I asked them to just mail it to these friends of mine that live in New York. I guess assuming at some point I'll be able to go visit them and get it. And I
Right.
was looking like that might be a really long time before I can go get those cards. So I have a lot of 4 Josh Anderson Young Guns that I have no idea how they look, but I'm
Well,
excited
maybe
to
you
get
can
them.
just get those friends to ship it out to someone if you sell it.
I know. The thing is, like, when I messaged them to be like, "Hey, can I have these cards shipped to you?" They were like, "On the only condition is you don't ask me to do any work."
Mm.
So I
So
feel
no.
like I might have to
So
cut them in and like,
what did you
yeah.
buy your Josh Anderson for in the
So I think
offseason?
so the first Josh Anderson I bought before the trade, and it was like a buck or two. And then I remember then I bought a lot of four of them that also it was like right when the trade happened, and
Yeah.
it was like one of these like rush and buy it now, and I think it was like $8 or $9. So it was like basically nothing
So
for
like
five Josh
two
Anderson.
bucks a piece?
Yeah, let's say $2 a piece.
Yeah, so you're doing great on Josh Anderson. And the moral of the story is go buy things when people get traded to Montreal. I think
Yeah.
that's what we're finding out because like Josh Andersons are going from 15 to 20 bucks right now.
Dude, and it
So
like could go up if the Habs go on
that's
this cup run.
my math is bad, but that's like 7 to 10x. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, man. I'm seeing a lot of busts here. I bought a lot of cards of guys that I thought might be good, like Frank Vetrano, who's doing nothing over on Florida. Should have gotten myself a Carter Verhaeghe, but who
I
knew?
have one of those actually.
Oh
I
yeah.
pulled it out of the box, so I can't say that I flipped it. But yeah, his value. I think he's not going crazy. Like it's still like $8 maybe. But yeah, his have gone from like the dollar pile to having some value.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, it's only been like 3 games for Florida because they've had so many games postponed. But if he sticks with,
Yeah.
Barkov all season and has himself a year, that's all of a sudden something. Here's a couple like regrettable ones now that I'm seeing. I don't think I spent too much, but here's two guys who got bumped from their top power plays we were expecting big seasons for. But Anthony D'Angelo here, who's already been
Oh,
bumped by Adam Fox, and like I can't imagine he'll get it back anytime soon, or maybe he does, but I don't know. I think that like I only spent like $5 or something on it, but I
right.
can't imagine that's gone up. He's like in the doghouse, got benched for a game.
Yeah, I think Adam Fox was the big buy there, right? Because
Yeah, definitely.
he like
He's amazing.
he still is a good buy actually. If you're talking about guys to buy, Adam Fox is still one of them. Like you can get it under $20, which when you're
Oh
talking about
yeah.
like some of the best defensemen in the league, like we just talked about Shabbat, who is a similar price. Like go get Adam Fox. It's still like obviously you could get it for a lot cheaper earlier, but it's still not crazy.
Honestly, like Aaron is saying here in the chat, like watching Fox this year, he's at Makar level, and obviously Kale Makar, like ungraded, I'm sure is like $100 or something close to that. You can tell me, but and Adam Fox, you're saying is less than 20, and what's the difference? Like at this point, we're looking at 5 points in 6 games for Adam Fox. He's on the top power play, just like Makar. He's gonna if he sticks there, he's like with like Zibanejad. Zibanejad's had like a bummer start to the year, but like big names on the Rangers. Like I could definitely see, and also like the New York. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is like a bigger market than Colorado, or at least equal. So I think that's a really smart point. That like unless it's just like Makar won the Calder and now he just has this shine on him. And
Yeah.
I don't take anything away from Makar. He's having a great second year also. Like he's awesome. And Colorado's probably going to go on a longer run than the Rangers, but the Rangers look like they could be good in a year or two. I thought they looked good this year. So far, it hasn't really come together. But yeah, I like that advice a lot. Actually, I think that's my main takeaway right now: is go buy Adam Fox,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
yeah, if you get it cheap.
I mean, the other defenseman that we talked about a lot is Rasmus Dahlin, who has done almost nothing, and
Oh,
his cards have increased a bit. I think just because people are watching again, but he's another one you could probably still go get if you still believe, as I do, that he's going to be a very good defenseman in the league. And like his is a little bit more dependent on his team like finally figuring it out. Whereas like I think Fox is going to be okay because they've got talent there. But yeah,
actually, like how much is a Darlene Raw going for right now? Same as Fox, like around $20.
I haven't looked up the raw, but I bought a BGS 9.5 at like 85 in the off season, and those are like
Nice.
between 130 150 now. So you can even get graded cards at like a reasonable price.
Like I'm super into Darlene, and I'm into him like this season. Like I know it's been a
Yeah,
slow start, but I think the turnaround is like now, like next, like last game he got an assist
right.
on the power play, took 4 shots. Like he's getting all the power play time. It's like a power play with Taylor Hall and Jack Eichel. Like I think it's like weird that he had such a slow start to the season, and maybe I don't know what happened. Like maybe just there's no training camp, right? It's a weird year,
It
and
is.
you have to give some players some slack for maybe not having the best starts. Like I mentioned
Yeah.
Zibanejad, like Malkin. Like I think these guys are going to turn it around.
It's a bit
So yeah, Dahlin's a good buy.
it's a bit tough to see his value. Like it's a bit more all over the place. Like a lot of two sold for 60, but most of them are going for like 35, 40. So it's still quite a bit more than Adam Fox, which just like kind of doubles down on the reasoning to go get a couple Adam Fox cards.
Well, yeah, I guess that's for sure. And with Dahlin, though, I think like it's just a matter of time before he has his first multi-point game. And like you said, it just takes a big game for cards to go up. So maybe that's like the one where you just buy now, wait for a spike, and you can even sell right away, make it like a GameStop type situation.
Right?
Like try to sell. Oh, and by the way, I was going to mention the other defenseman that I bought that we thought was going to be in a good spot and hasn't worked out so far is Neil Pionk over
Hmm.
here, who's been bumped by Josh Morrissey. So we'll see how long that lasts. But if Pionk isn't on the top power play in Winnipeg, that's going to really hamper his star power. So maybe those were
Yeah,
some bad buys.
I didn't really see him going up like crazy just because, he doesn't really have that star power. He kind of landed there and was doing well, but I don't know. He didn't get a lot of attention. I don't even know if Morrissey will either, though. So, yeah, I don't know about the blue line in Winnipeg. I'd be looking at their forwards, I think. Um,
I got myself a Joel Farabee. I'm thinking I should have sold that one when he had that 4 point game to start the year, right?
yeah, his cards exploded.
Ah,
It was nuts. I think they've come back down to reality a little bit, but it really shows you that if you're like really paying attention and you've got like your list on eBay thumbs like ready to go, um, you can turn a profit on a night where a guy just goes crazy.
man. So yeah, it's you gotta really take it seriously, I guess, and be like, this is our first time sort of being in season collecting these cards. So, are you doing that at all? Like, have you been like flash listing cards when players have good games?
Yeah, I mean, like the story with the Toffoli was like I wanted to go to bed, but then I was looking at it and I was seeing how well he did and the prices, and I was like, okay, well, before I go to bed, I have to list this card because it's nuts right now, uh, and it sold like by the time I'd woken up. So yeah, I think like in certain cases, I got a few Brock Besser PSA 10s like 2 days before the season started. And then he had that big night where he had two like really nice snipes. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, Brock Besser is back," which I think to some extent is true. He's got 4 goals and 2 assists in 8 games now, so it's not like he's scoring 2 nice goals a night. But his cards went nuts that night, like absolutely crazy. I didn't end up selling one, but they are like at 200-ish dollars, and I got mine at 128. And I kind of see them as soon as Pedersen figures it out, like he's gonna go for the ride.
Yeah, that's a was a smart buy. It seems like Vancouver just has a lot of fans,
Yeah.
so you just need to have a player that's decent enough. I guess like Thatcher Demko had that huge bump in the
Hmm.
playoffs, like right at the end, and then he had like a terrible start to the year. I wonder if that would have been a good time to buy. Now he's had a good game against the Sens. Now he's playing against the Sens again. That's obviously a good time to raise your fantasy stock or your just like
Yeah.
real life stock. So I wonder if Demko, like, yeah, what happened with him? I don't know. I'm just throwing like random names at you, and I'm like as if you like know it all by heart. But I'm just curious now because wasn't Demko going for like 50, $60?
Yeah, he was
Now
really
I'm seeing
high.
we're down to like 30 or 40.
Yeah, I think
A
they've
couple.
come back down to reality as well. And I don't know where his is going. Like goalies are harder for me because especially this year, goalies are like splitting games, and there's just so much unreliability in the league this year that I'm not really sure how to judge them. Obviously, if Vancouver goes to the playoffs again and he's the star, like I don't mind that, but I'm not going out to get Demko's. But speaking of playoffs, actually, I was looking at like all the cards I'd got, and I got Braden Point, two of them, like at 130 bucks. They're BGS 9.5s, and they haven't really gone up that much. So he could be another guy to target as like a guy that you could actually still buy like now, um, if you're like looking to get a few cards, because for whatever reason, like Tampa's, I don't know, like Braden Point isn't really in the news, but by the time playoffs roll around, like guess what? Like Braden Point's back.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to go on a long run. I think that's a very smart buy. I've heard some quotes from Stamkos just saying how amazing Point is.
Yeah,
Like he loves him. So I like that advice. Can I throw a player at you who I think you should sell his card
sure.
right now? This is not a Toffoli situation where he's spiked recently, and so it's like a good time to sell. This is a guy who's probably on his way down, but it's still pretty high. So I say sell before it's too late, and that is Matt Murray. He
Oh,
sucks. Matt
yeah.
Murray sucks,
So
man.
remember when I told you not to buy him in the off season?
Yeah, well, I listened to you,
Yeah.
and I'm glad about that. But for anyone who did buy, like, I'm seeing a Matt Murray Young Guns, like non-graded, sold for $76 on eBay yesterday, and like, I'm telling you, this guy, if you watch that last game against the Canucks, those were like soft goals. Now Hogberg's in today. Like Murray's gonna obviously have a long leash, but I do not. I just like worry that he might not be that good. I could be wrong. It's very hard to predict goalies,
Well,
but he was like one of the worst goalies in the league last year,
yeah.
and he's looking like one of the worst goalies this year. So at what point do people stop paying money for Matt Murray Young Guns cards because he won 2 cups in his first 2 seasons?
I
So
don't
I
know.
thought, yeah,
That's actually a great question. I don't know if there's that many goalies that you can look at that like won early and then dropped off a cliff kind of thing. Um, but yeah, as you say, he was bad last year on Pittsburgh. I don't know why we'd expect him to be good on Ottawa. Um, but he does have those 2 cups. Like he's got a bit of a legacy going on. Now, like $75 is pretty high for a
take
Matt
it.
Murray card. Like I wouldn't be buying that. Uh,
Yeah, I'd be selling it. Yeah.
I
So,
could,
anyways,
yeah,
that's my advice there. So
yeah.
whatever.
I'm with you.
If you could use a cool 75, take it now before it turns into 35.
You know what you could do with $75 is
Buy some Adam Fox.
you could buy like 4 Adam Foxes, but you could go out and get Carter Hart, whose cards for some reason haven't been skyrocketing. They've been kind of staying the same, and I've always been into the Carter Hart buy.
Carter Hart had a bad last game, but it was then he like almost like made up for it by smashing his stick in a funny
That
way.
was
So
great.
then people are like talking about Carter Hart, like, yeah, exactly. Like, oh, I love Carter Hart. Look at this guy.
Yeah.
Look at the passion. So I bet you his hockey card value like even went up just because he smashed his stick. So maybe it is a good
Well,
buy.
and like if you watch that game, which I watched a lot of it, like the reason he's smashing his stick is he got scored on a lot, but none of them were him. Like he was getting absolutely left out there by himself. It looked like a shinny game.
Yeah, okay, so that's fair. That was against Pittsburgh. Well, whatever, doesn't matter. It's all in the past now. Brian Elliott has looked good. Obviously, his cards aren't going to be doing anything at this point, but it's nice to see.
But since we're talking about the Flyers, I was super into Konechny in the off season for obvious reasons. He was great
Okay,
last year.
he's had a great
Um,
start.
his cards were like I got one for $11. Like I don't know why uh, they were so cheap,
That's
but
amazing.
now they're like 25, 30, which I still think is not nuts. Um, and he's really turning into a star on that team.
It's weird, like, yeah, because I honestly think that there's upside for more
Yeah,
because even though like he's putting up these big numbers and he's doing it like not even getting like the best deployment, like he's like you would think he's like top line, top power play, playing like 20 minutes a game because he's clearly their best player. But it's like in the last game he played 16 minutes and 44,
right.
the game before like 12:55, like not even on the top power play. And I feel like for fantasy, whatever, you could be like, oh, it's kind of concerning. Maybe for this year, it's a good sell high. But like for hockey cards, if you're saying it's $25 now, like imagine, I think it's just a matter of time before he is getting that top deployment there. Like
Yeah,
JVR and Giroux or all these like older players aren't going to be like ahead of him for much longer.
yep.
So yeah, I think that's a really good buy.
Yeah, and Philly rolls 3 like really good lines every night, right? It's not. It's kind of like the Columbus situation, except all 3 of their lines can score goals and like do things. Whereas they're not. They're not just running 3 shutdown lines. Yeah, and Philly rolls 3 like really good lines every night, right? It's not. It's kind of like the Columbus situation, except all 3 of their lines can score goals and like do things. Whereas they're not just running 3 shutdown lines. I do like think maybe he should be on that top power play, but as you say, it's he's going to be a star on that team for a while, and the young guys on that team are starting to have an impact as well. So I don't see them being a bad team anytime soon.
Yeah, like yeah, a lot of the you're right. The young players like Nolan Patrick
Yeah.
kind of really stepping up this year. I hope he can stay healthy. He's another guy that would have maybe been a good buy because he was probably like super cheap over the summer. Like you didn't even know if he was going to be able to play this
Well,
season.
he was kind of another one that was like Jack Hughes, right? Where like because he was such a high pick, like his cards never got quote unquote really cheap. So it was always a bit of a risky buy, but yeah, I mean, obviously he had a great night the other night, and he's got the talent. So as long as his health doesn't get in the way, I I think he's going to be great.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so fun. It's cool to follow all these players that are doing well and see how their cards are doing. Is there anyone that's like surprising you, like either like they're doing really well? I guess you've mentioned a couple that have like done well and their card hasn't gone up, like a Konechny.
Yeah.
I saw you wrote in this list here like somehow Max Domi's card has been going up even though he's been terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I think this might be partly like I identified a card I could buy low. Like his PSA 10s in the summer were $50, and so I bought one because $50 was like at the lowest end of PSA 10s possible.
Hmm.
And now they're at like 90 to 100, which is kind of where you expect a PSA 10 of like a player that is good, like not even great or like amazing, but good
Yeah.
tends to land. And so yeah, it's kind
So
of
do you sell
doubled.
them?
Yeah. Like, do I sell it? I don't think so. I like,
You wait for Laine, right? And hope that
yeah,
he and Laine click. Yeah.
right. I see more from Domi. Like, he's got a good story. He hasn't done a lot lately, but we know he has potential to do a lot. And he could once he gets the hang of that system, which I imagine with no preseason, getting just dumped onto the Columbus Blue Jackets is pretty tough.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that actually could be a good spot for him.
I mean, he has to have Tortorella not hate him.
Sure.
That's a big, and so he could actually get some ice time. But he's a good playmaker, right?
Yeah.
And Laine is a good finisher. So theoretically, this should be a really good fit for both of them.
Yeah.
Then again, it's Columbus, so how high can their card values even go?
Right.
By the way, so one guy I've got to ask you about since you're an Oilers fan. So Tyson Barrie has not had a great start to the Oilers season. He's already been bumped from the top power play. Everyone was like, okay, for sure he's going to be the top power
Yeah.
play quarterback. Who else do they even have? And, like especially once their recently high draft pick got injured, Bouchard. So now it's like you'd think it would be a done deal, but he's done nothing. And already it was Darnell Nurse on the top power play for the last couple of games. So I'd imagine that it's already looking like Barry is not going to be a hit in Edmonton. He's probably not going to stay there after this season.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that quite yet. I think the jury is still out. I definitely bought a bunch of his cards, and like they're not going through the roof, and nor do I expect them to be with how he's done. Um, but from the coach's perspective, the power play wasn't working, and they went back to something they've done before, which was Darnell Nurse being on the power play. I don't see that as a permanent situation. Like I really don't see him being their power play quarterback. He makes too many mistakes coming through the neutral zone, and because of him they're often chasing the puck on their own power play. So I don't see that lasting. That's not to say that Barry ends up being the guy, but I think he's going to get another shot at some point, and maybe we'll see it work out again.
Yeah. Okay. I guess it's possible at this point. Like if you could buy him super cheap, I'd be down. But I would be just for the potential benefit because it should be there. But it's definitely not the start to the season that we were hoping for from Tyson Barrie. We're looking at
No,
2 assists in 8 games.
no, and like it's a little bit of like, was it Barry or was it the Oilers couldn't score on their power play? Right? Like I don't think it was necessarily him. They just had to change something.
Yeah. Well, in the end, also they're the kind of team where it's like they have such amazing
Yeah,
players, like not at the point, like
yeah.
they'll have McDavid and Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins and Yamamoto, or I guess Yamamoto's not there, unfortunately. But like like those awesome players like are going to want to be playing with the puck and passing it around the net. Maybe there's no point of like passing it back to the defenseman to take a shot and like waste an opportunity when you could be giving it to McDavid and getting him to do something.
Yeah, well, I think like with Barry, like he's a good passer, so it actually does work out. If it gels. The weird thing about that power play is they changed two things at once. So they had Chiasson in that like to the left of the net spot, and he's
Mhm.
supposed to be there and just jam the pucks in when he gets them, right? But he can never do that. It's extremely frustrating to watch. Those guys obviously always get him the puck there, and it never goes in. So
Frustrating.
they put Puljujärvi on the power play. You've seen Yamamoto briefly, and things went better. And so, like, they didn't just switch out Nurse for Barry. They also changed the guy that is in that extremely important position, and things are working.
Yeah, so we'll see. I see James Neal's also back, so maybe he
James
gets a
Neal's
shot on that
back.
top power play.
Yeah.
But yes, that's been Oilers talk with Ryan and Elan. Any other hockey cards you want to talk about here? Like I forgot how time just flies by
It
when we're doing the
does.
show. It's already been an hour.
Yeah. Why don't we wrap
Remember?
up with a guy that we've talked a lot about? Like we've talked about constantly, and we're always like, why is this card so low?
Okay.
And that is our man in Colorado, Mikko Rantanen. 6 goals, 2 assists in 8 games to start the season. And, before the season, we were like, why is he $28? Why can you get his card so cheap? And now he's at like the $50, $60 range, which seems much more appropriate.
Yeah, so that was obviously a good investment. And I think I was one of the ones. I feel like for 20, I couldn't have been like poo-pooing it too much, but I wasn't like expecting it to go up so crazy. So that's awesome. He's having an amazing start to the year. He and McKinnon are just they're best friends. They're and it's like just magic happens. Like what was that last game against San Jose? Like they won like 7-3.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, to be fair,
so
San Jose is not very good, but yeah,
oh yeah.
they're exciting to watch.
Yeah. No, sky's the limit. I think they're my cup favorite at the moment.
They
So
definitely have that going on. And, they've got Kadri, who no one even talks about anymore. And he's very
it's
good.
wild.
Like, yeah, it's crazy.
Ryan Graves was a healthy scratch in the
Wow.
last game. It's like, how good are you that Ryan Graves is a healthy scratch? Last year, he was like a really solid defenseman. But I guess that's what happens when you bring in Bone Byram and Devon Taves and like all of these good defensemen, and they have all these good forwards. Like Brandon Saad is just like a complimentary piece, also playing with Nazem Kadri. So yeah. Oh wow, Aaron is saying he owns 35 Rantanen. So that's the question: are you going to sell? You've had a big, huge profit potentially.
I think it's still going
He's
up,
gonna
right?
hold.
Like, if you think he's the cup favorite, like, you got to wait to the playoffs to sell Colorado cards, unless it's like, one of their like tertiary players. But one of their stars, like, I think they're going to go up as they do things in the playoffs.
Yeah, all that they need to do is not have all their goalies get injured and have to rely on Michael Hutchinson. Or I
Ooh.
guess this year would be Hunter Miska. But yeah, like Grubauer's, by the way, we should look at him. Like he's like, going into the year, I think a lot of people was like, it will either be Grubauer or Francouz as Francouz is, by the way, one of the people who were in this series one.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he's been injured. And so obviously he hasn't gone up. And so, but Grubauer's gotten the opportunity to be an undisputed starting goalie. And I'm seeing that his young gun sold for $1.99 this a couple days ago, 14.99. Like
Yeah,
I could see him. Yeah,
he doesn't
that's
get a lot of
surprising.
hype, right? Like, he's kind of like Kudobin last year, where I don't know, like, they're obviously good goalies, no question about it, but nobody talks about Grubauer, or at least I don't hear anything about Grubauer.
Well, he might be. I think if you get for less than $10, I think there's a decent chance he's the cup winning starting goalie.
Yeah,
So that's going to be worth something at some point.
definitely worth a shot.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, man. So fun. So many cool cards to talk about.
I know.
But I guess we should probably
Let's wrap
call it
it
off
up.
at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was excellent talking hockey with you again. And next week, we're going to have a really cool show. We're going to have Aaron back on talking about ComC, the marketplace where, as a seller, you can put all your cards into it and it kind of sells them for you. Or as a buyer, you can kind of use it like eBay and go find lots of good deals.
Yeah, I loved your show with Aaron a couple weeks ago. It was a lot of fun to listen to. And looking forward to learning about ComC. That's how I got my Toffoli. And
Right.
Ryan said I should have bought like 5 of them at the time. So yeah, it'll be a blast.
Good deals over there. All right. Well, thanks for coming on again, Elan. And until next time, go get them young guns.